after I graduated college, I came down to Los Angeles to be a writer. And so the first job I got was as a comedy writer on a television show, and I really didn't like it. It just felt like it wasn't for me. It was a bunch of guys eating Chinese food late into the night and shooting baskets, and it wasn't for me. So I quit, and I went to the unemployment office because I didn't have a job. I was an English major, you know. And so if you believe in destiny at all, you would have to, this would be the final convincing argument. I looked on the bulletin board of jobs listed, and there was one that said children's book writer wanted, and I thought, well, that doesn't happen. But it was a federally funded research and development lab that was creating a reading series for kids, and they had all kinds of educational psychologists who were doing the word attack skills and the reading pedagogy, but they needed 2 writers to write the stories. So you had to audition, so I wrote a story, and I was selected as one of 2. So when we got in, the other writer was a young man named Stephen Musser. So they put us in an office together, and they said, now what you'll be writing is 110 short stories, controlled vocabulary, all the way up through novels for 5th graders, a K-5 curriculum. And he said, okay, great. And they left the room, and I turned to him and said, I don't know how to do I don't know how to do this. So we said, well, no problem. We'll go to a conference. We'll take a class. We'll study children. At least we had the good sense to know that this was a special skill, children's book writing, that you didn't just, and there wasn't anything. So I was 21. And I said, well, let's throw a conference. So I went to the library and worked with the children's librarian and read all the great children's books that were on the shelves. And I picked my 10 favorites, and I wrote to those authors. Dr. Seuss, Sid Fleischman, Jane Yolen, you know, Judy Blume, and said, we're throwing a conference, and would you be available to come? When I look at it now, it's just a laughable thing. But you know, out of those 10 letters, I got 10 responses. 10 wrote back, which starts to tell you something about the world of people who create children's books. This is an unusual world. And 8 out of the 10 said yes. The only ones who said no were Dr. Seuss, who wrote a rejection letter in rhyme, which I still have, and E.B. White, who wrote Charlotte's Web, who was sick. He died shortly thereafter, and he said, I think the old girl, meaning Charlotte, and I have to stay in the barn this summer. Anyway, so we threw a conference, and here came Sid Fleischman and Jane Yolen and Don Freeman, and there were 35 people. We had no idea what we were doing, but we fell in love. The whole community fell in love. And there was no such organization at the time. So that's how it began. It's now a lifetime later, and there are over 25,000 members, and basically everybody who writes and illustrates children's books is a member. And of the last 20 years, I think we've sort of produced the next generation of children's book authors and illustrators. They've all come up through the organization. It's a nonprofit, and so it is a community, we call it the tribe, you know, a really tight-knit community of people who write and illustrate and publish for children. It's a very unique peer group. Everyone is motivated by a longing to do good work, a longing for the success of the next person, you know, a kind of altruism in terms of helping kids, helping schools, loving librarians. You know, this is a very unique community. So the organization has thrived, really kind of in spite of us. You know, it grew up. You know, it was kind of a crazy idea that was never intended to be this, but because the community is such a heartfelt community and it's so bound by love, that this organization has grown and flourished, and I'm sure will continue to way beyond me.